Welcome to this video tutorial. My name is Mrs. Cook. I'm an A-level sociology teacher and examiner. Today's tutorial focuses on paper 3, the 20 marker, and if social policy comes up. Just as a reminder, paper 3 does contain a 20 mark question, and it will either be on a theory, a method, or a debate. So let's get started. Now, if social policy comes up, it could come up as a straightforward debate, or it could come up as a theoretical-based question. So it could be, do we get involved or not? Or more of a theoretical stance on it, what's the role and purpose of social policy? So here's a hypothetical question. Use a material from the item, so you must use that item at least once, and elsewhere, so they're testing you on your content that you've learned across the 2 years. Evaluate, so you've got to evaluate in every paragraph, the idea that sociologists should get involved in policy making. So it's a debate style question. This means that 70% of your essay should be getting across to the examiner with peely paragraphs the ideas from any sociologists that say we should get involved, and you should be explaining why they think that, backing it up with lots of concepts and studies as well as examples. So let's have a little look at a plan. This is the planning sheet I use with my students. So introduction is first. With an introduction, all you need to do is simply define the key concepts in the question. So in the question, it asks you, do we get involved in social policy making? So the first thing you're going to do is define what social policies are. Give them examples would be great. Then 70% of this essay needs to have different perspectives that agree that we should get involved. So as you can see, I'm going to give 4 of these boxes to the perspectives that say yes, get involved. So that's positivists and functionalists. And then in the second paragraph, you've got your social and demographic approach. The third paragraph, left realism. And of course you can change this up, you can do it in any order. Fourth paragraph, feminists. So all 4 of those would say yes, get involved. What we now need to do is introduce some counter arguments. But don't forget, we will be evaluating each of those perspectives before we move on to the next. So one direction you could go in is, even if you want to get involved, sometimes it's difficult. Or if you want to bring in a theoretical idea, how about New Right and Hardline Marxists? They are both examples of perspectives that say it doesn't make sense to get involved. Of course, you need a conclusion. So perhaps with this one, argue that there is no universal agreement whether it's the sociologist's job to get involved or not. The next part is really important. I'm going to take you through how to structure your paragraphs. We're not going to do all of the paragraphs, but I'm going to take you through the positivist and the functionalist paragraph. What you need to do is look at the structure and then mimic that structure for the other perspectives, copying the key skills that you see. So I'm going to make it try and make it obvious, the AO1, the AO2 and the AO3 that I'm doing. First of all, peely, make a point. So I'm going to get across in the first sentence, positivists and functionalists as a theory are the ones that would definitely agree that we should get involved in policy making. What follows is a very, very chunky explanation of why. So when you read this, you will note that I've got studies, I've got theoretical ideas that back up why functionalists and positivists in particular believe that we should get involved in policy making. So if you have a read, you'll see there's lots of concepts, value consensus, talking about the smooth running of society, talking about how we shouldn't just accumulate facts, that we should be using our expertise in trying to eradicate social problems to make sure that society is running smoothly. But also, what's important is backing it up with examples. What policies have done what functionalists and positivists set out to do. Now what you see here is I'm going to add a few more sentences just to up the AO2 for the application to more examples of policies. but also my AO1 because I'm looking at piecemeal social engineering. It's a key concept linked to social policy and in particular favoured by functionalists and positivists. And then what follows is a link back to make sure that your answers are nice and focused. So you go back to the question to remind the examiner, yes, functionalists and positivists definitely believe that we should get involved. The last part of the paragraph is really important to get into the top band. You have to have evaluation, but it has to be explicit. It cannot be juxtaposition. Explicit means it's specifically critical of what you've just talked about. So we've talked about policies that help encourage a smooth running society, help socialisation, etc. So here we've got Marxism, which is very critical of policies and say actually they can do more harm than good sometimes. They can cause conflict rather than consensus. They can look out for the interests of one particular group rather than for everyone. Always back it up with an example. And there you have it. That's an ideal paragraph structure. I would encourage you to pause the video, perhaps even print it out, have a look at where the AO1, AO2 and AO3 are coming in. So your AO1 is your knowledge, so it's knowledge of the correct theory, knowledge of correct policies that back up the point, knowledge of the correct concepts. Your AO2 is when you apply the theory, so you explain in the application to actual policies, and then AO3 is your analysis, so think about this paragraph, how many times you answer the question how and why, and then explicit evaluation at the end. So going back to the essay plan, you'll see that we've done the first paragraph, but of course that paragraph's quite chunky, and realistically you only have 35 minutes to complete this 20 marker. So whilst we have a plan where we have 4 different perspectives, in reality you may only get 3 done. As an examiner, I would say fewer but more detail is important. But of course, top band is range and depth. So if you get this essay planned up before the exam, there's no reason why you can't do at least 3 for and 1 against. Hope this has been helpful.